Every 10 years after the census, legislative district boundaries get redrawn. Often it has been a process in which legislators band together to choose their own voters by drawing artful and sometimes very oddly shaped maps. This year in Maryland and Montgomery County, a less partisan process is being tried. Sam, you're part of that Montgomery County process. Will it be fair?
It's going to be extremely fair. This is the first time in the history of redistricting in Montgomery County where no political party has a majority. We have 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 4 independents, a Libertarian, and a member of the Green Party. And we all have the common goal of drawing fair and equitable council districts so that anybody living in those districts gets fair representation and people who want to run for office have an equal and fair chance. I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful process.
Well, thank you. Sam, what does a fair district look like to you?
Mark, the main driver of redistricting in Montgomery County is a numbers game, really. If you take a look at our current map, we have 5 legislative districts that have to be expanded to 7. Each one of those 5 districts right now contains approximately 200,000 citizens. And we have to go to 7 districts of approximately 150,000 people each. So the population is really going to have more to do with the shaping of the district than anything else. And then on top of that, of course, you want ethnicity taken into consideration, economics taken into consideration, just a whole bunch of other factors that will eventually determine some of the boundaries of the district. But population is the main driver. And I can tell you right now, Mark, and for those of us that are listening, we're going to have some upset people because, as an example, the folks out towards the Burtonsville area, they feel underrepresented on a lot of issues, monies to the schools, transportation, housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's 90,000 people living in that district. So we need to go throughout the rest of the county, move things around in order to get 60,000 more people to form a council district there. And that's true throughout the whole county. If Gaithersburg and Rockville are in their district, that really impacts on the configuration of the other districts. If they're together, it shifts the population to the left and up towards Burtonsville. If we separate them, it shifts the population to the right, down 29 and up towards Poolsville. So it's a very interesting and intriguing way to design. Some of it's numbers and a lot of it is, it's the craft and skill of the artists who are drawing these districts.
Well, it sounds like a balloon where you move in the air in one direction, and if you push too far one way, it goes in the other direction. Bill, what about the state map making process? Does a less partisan approach have a chance?
Well, first of all, I don't believe at all it's a less partisan approach because, as Sam's described, you have 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then some from other parties. So ultimately, what you have is a partisan process. The only difference is we're not saying, well, okay, there's going to be no Republicans included because it's not part of, because the county council is not doing it itself. But what the real discussion here is the problem with redistricting, not just in Montgomery County, but overall. We're trying to draw districts saying that they have to be equal in size because somehow that impacts the power of the voters. But in reality, the reason why districts were always drawn this way is because initially it was very difficult to get from point A to point B when we had horses and buggies and we came up with the idea. Now, if we were to take, for example, Burtonsville and add that to Rockville or add that to Germantown or wherever in order to create a district of 150,000 people, you're going to have their interests be diluted by those of others who may not have any kind of economic relationship or similar needs of that. So it makes more sense to me to, and this goes beyond Maryland, but to look at the process and try to understand really what should a representative do. So to me, all the districts should be drawn based on political boundaries and also natural barriers, including roads. That way you generally group people who have the same interests together And once you get beyond that, you draw a new district. And if that means there's somewhat of a difference in the population, that's okay, because ultimately everyone is represented equally based on who they are and where they are.
Well, Phil, we use the term communities of interest, which is very important, just as you said, and that is a very important consideration in our map drawing. And the reason I'm saying that we're nonpartisan is because no party has a majority vote. We have to cross the aisles in order to draw and come up with a really fair map that takes all of the subsections into consideration, which is the economics, the race, schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is the fairest process that we've had in a long, long time. And you certainly are not going to see any gerrymandering.
Well, I hope that's the case. I want to disagree with you on one thing. I don't think race should be part of it, because race is just a matter of how much melanin you have and don't have in your skin. And it isn't a problem to say include some blacks and some whites, Hispanics, and you name it in the same district. That's not a reason to have a community of interest. Community of interest are what you do, where you live, those things, not what your skin color is. And that to me is wrong.
But we certainly don't want to divide a community of interest like Tamarack, for example, or other areas in Kensington, or up in Burtonsville, or out towards Poolsville. We want to try to keep communities together to enhance their vote, to enhance their ability to influence the decisions of their representative. And I think that's what our goal is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that in general, but my issue is with the inclusion of race.
Well, we'll have to resolve that some other time. Let's move on to our next topic.